speaker card and give it to the officer in the back of the room. Items that are not on the agenda are heard at the end of the voting meeting. Glendale has 7 city council members. Mayor Jerry Wires, Vice Mayor Joyce Clark of the Yucca District, Councilmember Jamie Aldama of the Ocotillo District, Councilmember Ian Hugh of the Cactus District, Councilmember Bart Turner of the Beryl District, Councilmember Ray Mauner of the Saguaro District, and Councilmember Lauren Tomachoff of the Cholla District. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Glendale City Council meeting, January 9th, 2024. Meeting is called to order. Roll call will not be called because everybody's here, so if you'd make note of that, that'd be awesome. The next 2 items on our agenda are the invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation tonight is from a friend of several of the members up here, Pastor John Torres from the New Life Community Church. Pastor, if you'd come up to the podium. And then folks, if you would, please stand. If you're wearing a hat, if you're a gentleman and it's appropriate, if you'd remove your hat. If it's not appropriate, remain, go ahead and leave it on. And then if everyone just remains standing after he's done so we can do our pledge. JT.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for putting me in this position and also thank Mayor Jerry Wires for allowing me this opportunity. It's an honor and a privilege to be here to open up in prayer for the first meeting of this new year. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here this evening to make sound decisions and do good work. Again and again, prayer after prayer, King David proclaimed your goodness and reminded himself of who he was in you. Today, in the start of this new year here in Glendale, Arizona, we ask as we move forward with confidence, regardless of the challenges, uncertainties, and decisions we face, that we move with your guidance, because we know that you're upright and blameless, the all-powerful and mighty God that will be with us. Also, we ask that you will guide and lead us in all that we do to make our city the best city to live in. Help us be fair representatives of those who have entrusted us with this task. Give us the insight, the understanding, and wisdom we need to complete our mission for 2024. Help us remain strong and honest to always do what's best for our community and to perform our work to the best of our abilities. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, please join me in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, approval of the minutes is the next thing on our agenda from December 12th, 2023 voting minutes. Council members, anyone have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve the December 12th, 2023 meeting minutes?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve the minutes of the December 12th, 2023 voting meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Here you guys have it, that motion carries. Moving on to proclamations and awards. The proclamation today will be the January 2024 Anti-Human Trafficking. And the purpose of the proclamation is to urge residents and partners to work together to eliminate trafficking from our community and support the efforts of frontline organizations for law enforcement in their battle against human trafficking. So if I would could get Stacy Sutherland along with Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network, Stacy's with them, along with Lieutenant Elaine Singer, meet me up at the podium. Come on over to this side. Oh, we got a whole slew of you. Got a whole bunch of you. I never felt so safe. Okay. Everybody here? Almost. Almost? All right, perfect. Okay, whereas January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, a presidential designated observance, whereas in the United States has some of the highest rates globally for human trafficking, and whereas the International Labor Organization estimates that 40.3 million men, women, and children are subjected to human trafficking per year. That's huge. Wow. Whereas the International Labor Organization, again, 40.3, that's mind-boggling. Whereas the Human Trafficking Institute estimates in their 2019 federal report that 51.6% of human trafficking active cases in the United States were sex trafficking cases involving children. Whereas Glendale joins with others across the state of Arizona and nationwide in supporting human trafficking victims and their survivors, the advocates and the organizations who serve them, and holding offenders accountable in the city of Glendale. And whereas each year January provides an opportunity for all of us to recommit ourselves to increase public awareness of the human trafficking epidemic that impacts our communities, our state, our nation, and the world. Now therefore, I, Jerry P. Wires, Mayor of the City of Glendale, Arizona, on behalf of our City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2024 as Anti-Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Be it further resolved, I urge our residents and our partners to work together to eliminate trafficking from our community and support the efforts of frontline organizations and law enforcement in their battle against human trafficking, and to take a stand and to say, not in our city. That was signed by our clerk, myself. Who gets this?
Stacy, sir.
Stacy.
Thank you.
Stacy, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I would.
Please, go ahead.
I just want to thank the City of Glendale, Mayor, the City Council people, and Glendale Police Department for being such huge advocates in the fight against human trafficking. And as you can see, everyone up here today, not one person, agency, or organization can help combat this crime alone. So it does take a holistic approach of the entire community, and we thank you for that.
Anyone else?
I would just briefly say thank you so much again for this proclamation with so much division in our country politically. This is definitely an issue that we can all agree that needs to be eradicated from our society. And then coming up on February the 18th, that's a Sunday night at 5 p.m. at Grand Canyon University, we're having our Night of Hope, and we'll have more than 2,000 leaders, civic leaders, pastors, faith leaders from across our cities coming together. We're hoping for more and more cities to make these proclamations. I think last year we had around, how many cities? 11 cities make the proclamation. We would love to see all 91 cities stand and say, not in our city. So we'd love to see you join us at February 18th, Grand Canyon University Arena at 5 p.m. to shine the light on this issue in our city.
Well,
Thank you,
let's talk
Mayor.
a little business real quick. Next time we have a League of Cities, just get a hold of my office and I'll take you down there and we'll see if we can't get every city in Arizona to do this.
Sounds wonderful, Mayor.
So I can tell you, and I know this sincerely, every council member here feels exactly the same way. So this is unanimous with our council. I can assure you that.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you for what all of you do. Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda items or items 3 through 11. I was asked if we would take a separate vote and actually have item number 6 spoke about. So we'll go ahead and do that. Items on a consent agenda for the audience are typically of routine nature. They've been previously studied by the City Council at a workshop session. They are intended to be acted upon in one motion by this council. Do we have any speaker cards?
No cards, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And so if I could get a motion to approve consent agenda items 3, 4, 5, and 7 through 11.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve agenda items 3 through 5 and 7 through 11.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed, say nay. Here's the ayes have it, do have it, that motion carries. Now, if we could have item number 6 brought up, discussed.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Item 6 is a request for authorization to enter into amendment number 1 to the recycling services agreement with WM Recycle LLC for recycling processing services. So just as a way of background, back in June of 2021, council had a workshop where staff came and presented trends, costs, and challenges with our material recovery facility to support the recycle program. Part of that presentation summarized the citizens' responses to a recycling survey we did, which over 84% said recycling was very important to them, and 90% said they were willing to pay more. So part of that workshop was staff did get consensus from council to continue with the recycle program, but also to outsource our recycling services. So from that, we entered into this agreement with Waste Management to process our recycling services. So the amendment before you tonight is simply to add 2 new locations, so 2 additional transfer stations that staff could use to transport our material up to Waste Management, and then to correct, we said in our staff report to council that we wanted a request of an original $750,000, and that was incorrect. It was $5 million over the term of the contracts. We want to correct that tonight. And with that, Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Mr. Turner, any questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Watenko, we'll get the easy one out of the way. Where will the 2 new transfer stations be located? Has that been determined?
Yeah, the 2 new transfer stations are cited within the agreement themselves. They are not readily convenient, but in the event of something happens, it does allow us to use them. So they would not be used. I can pull them up if you need me to. Yeah, so the 2 transfer stations, one is just outside Sky Harbor Airport, and the other one is Santan Transfer Station. What it does is allows us some storage capacity in the event something does happen to the processing facilities. We can take them there. It also does allow, though, with us entering this agreement, other cities within the valley can also then cooperatively join our agreement, so they can link to our agreement, and so it allows some other cities to use those stations as well.
Thank you. The City of Glendale would bear the extra cost of using a more distant transfer station, or would Waste Management?
The cost is per transfer station, so it doesn't matter the distance from the transfer station up to their location. That is fixed in the contract. Our cost would be getting our material to that location. So it would be our internal operational costs. There would be no change with the contract for us using those 2 stations
Right.
outside of any other transfer stations they have.
Mayor, if I could, but there's also no credit back to the City of Glendale if, for some reason, we have to use a transportation station that's farther away. We'll have transportation costs associated with it, but
Mayor, council members, that's correct.
those will have to be internally absorbed. So the more complex issue here is the difference between $750,000 for a 5-year term versus $5 million for a 5-year term. My recollection at the time this came before us in the past was that we were going to spend that $750,000 across the 5 years, and at the time it seemed like a reasonable expense to me to be able to continue doing the recycling program. But now to spend $1 million a year to do the recycling program, I've got doubts about that. I'm not confident that, recycling pays for itself, much less turns a profit. So this looks to me like taxpayer money that's going off to, in essence, bury recyclables at a more distant location rather than in our own landfill. I know that's not a question, but that's my concern. So having said that, and not having any, seeing any data that shows that this is a good deal for the taxpayers at this much higher amount, and based on what I've been reading in the and published studies on recycling. I just don't myself I'm not confident that it's a good expenditure of money, so I'll be voting no when it comes to a vote. Thank you.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Watanko, do you know what the revenues are projected to be for Republic Services when they take our material, recycle it, and get their rebate or their revenue for? Do you know what what are we letting go versus what we're paying?
Mayor, council members, Councilman Roldama, I can go back to the workshop we did in June of 2021, and at that time, we did the cost process internally, or what we proposed was to go outside, and at the time, the conservative estimate was to outsource it to go to another processing location would be a net savings of approximately $350,000 per year. It does depend on market fluctuations. Our contract does pay them a base amount, $103 per ton for them to process, and then we get a % back from what they're able to sell. Since we've been running this just over a year, our conservative estimate of $350,000 is right on the mark. We did save approximately $400,000 last year, not fiscal year, but the calendar year that we had it outsourced, and we're running this with them. The amount we pay, so it's $103 per ton for them to process, that changes every month with the markets. So I just pulled up a recent one. We got just over $35 per ton credit back because that's what they were able to sell the material for. So it's $103 minus the credit that they get. And they can sell it. If that credit ever is more than $103, we actually get money back.
So how much do they make on the actual materials? Just the materials alone after the rebate? You said a number.
So we pay them $103 per ton to process.
Correct.
And they get a percentage back, but it's a percentage on each, it's a different percentage on each different material. So metals, they get a different percent. On plastics, a different percent. Paper, a different percent.
Aluminum. And they have to do the separation. That process belongs to them, obviously, because once they pick it up, they have to do that. So that's labor intensive. I'm just trying to figure out, is it $100,000 a year of the material that we've given them, that we've paid them to remove, that they're making? Do you have that raw number?
Mayor, council members, last year, we've paid 11 months. So far, we have not paid the 12th month. We've paid them just over $700,000. I don't have the exact number, but over $700,000 over the 11 months to process our material.
Thank you. And then this was brought to us back in 21. Since 21, I remember the conversation, Councilman Tomachoff and I were discussing it just now, but in that meeting, did we solidify that this is the route we were going with Arizona Republic and we were done?
Mayor, council members, Councilman Roldama, at that time, staff did tell you that we had put out a request for statement of qualifications, and we had several companies, 3 companies at the time, give us proposals, or this is what we could do for you. Staff, and it was a group, selected Waste Management, or WM Recycle America, and that's how this contract was developed. Part of the contract was the location of their facility. Their primary location is the closest one for us to use, so it does save us on that operational expense of getting our material to them.
Thank you, Ms. Watanko. And then today is, I'm going to use the word just, probably best, lack of a better word, is an amendment to that original contract or agreement back in 21. Is that correct?
Mayor and council members, the Councilman Roldama, we are amending that contract. Then the only amendment to that contract is to add these 2 additional sites.
Just as 2 sites. The dollar amount remains. Thank you.
Councilmember Tomachoff.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't really know very much about how this works, but let's start with the transfer stations. Ms. Watanko, who decides, can it be arbitrarily assigned to different transfer stations, or how can we know? Because I also agree with Councilmember Turner that if we are arbitrarily assigned to take our recycles to Santan, that's going to be an expense for us. So tell me how, is that just overflow, or can Waste Management just arbitrarily assign us as in our contract that we are guaranteed, where is our transfer station now that we're using, and then can they reassign us at their discretion?
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, our contract is written that we have the primary location of it's essentially their landfill up off US 60 in Surprise. That's our primary location, and in the event we choose, we can go to other locations to these transfer stations. We opted to add these 2 transfer stations in to amend this to allow our colleague cities in the East Valley to be able to link to our agreement to allow them to do it. Waste Management could not tell us, you must go use one of these stations. It is at our discretion to do so.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up, because I didn't know. Mayor, I do have another question. So, basically, it's $1.25 million a year, essentially, rather than $750,000 for 5 years, which is a big difference. Is that is the 1.25, is that the processing fee, or is the processing fee in addition to the 1.25?
So Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, the 1.25, if we want to, over the next couple of years, is to allow us some capacity within that contract in the event that the markets fluctuate or inflation happens or other reasons. So far, our cost to process has stayed consistently, and actually through our recycling education program, our actual waste material, our residual or the contamination within it has dropped. And so when we open this contract back up, our cost to process should actually decrease. So the $103 includes, or we also then pay on top of that. We get a rebate back for what they can sell, and we pay for our residual material. Our residual material has gone down, so we don't anticipate spending $1.25 million next year or in the future. We want that ability to, because that was what was originally intended within the contract. We just made the mistake of putting $750,000 a year, or $750,000 when we did this council report in December of 22.
Okay, thank you for that, Mayor. So the 1.25 is a max, and then it's inclusive of every fee, any charges that they would assign us. That's all included in that.
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, you are
Okay.
correct.
All right, I have one more question. So what is the term of this? Is this being amended mid-contract? So is this extending it? What is this extending it from out to? What is the extension date? Because they're renewable at the discretion of the city manager?
So Mayor and council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, the original agreement was a 5-year contract, 1 year, and then renewable for 4 additional years. Because we've hit the 1 year, we're now asking council to also at this time add the 2nd year to it. But we still don't have to go back and amend that original contract. That's allowable within the original contract. So the term of the contract remains the same. We're just now entering that 2nd year of the 5-year contract.
So, Mayor, I want to make sure I go through the chair. So we are locked in for 5 years now, or is this going to renew? Is this renewing, or we're amending it, but the contract, let's just say, expires in December 2024, and then it'll renew again? Or is this just contract goes through, I don't know, what the 2029 or whatever?
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, to just make sure we're clear, it's a 5-year contract. The 1st year is complete. We are now adding the 2nd year, which would go through December of 2024. We then have the ability to extend the contract on an annual basis.
Okay.
Until it ends in its entirety after that 5-year term, which would be,
Okay,
as
all
you
right.
said. Yeah.
That makes sense. So that was my point, is that if we think this is getting too expensive, I mean, at this point, we have to continue recycling because we don't have any other plan. But it's something that we could take a look at before the contract renews again. So what is that date? That's the date that I wanted to know, is what is the renewal date of this contract?
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomachoff, December of 2024 would be the next time we would amend the contract to add another year to it. But we're doing that, we can do that without coming back to council. Staff has that ability to look at the contract, determine if it's still a good, if it's working for us, if we're still fitting the terms, that's what we believe is the right thing to do, and then extend the contract, we can amend it 1 year at a time for that total term. Council's already approved it for the full 5 years. We just said we want to extend it while we're here to add that additional year in, since that first
Okay.
year is up.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Is your speaker on?
Now I'm on. Thank you. We recognize that the citizens of Glendale really do want recycling. Is that not correct? We've done surveys and it has been proven over and over that recycling is very popular. Is that not correct?
Mayor and council members, Vice Mayor, you are correct. That is correct.
Okay. When the city handled its own recycling program, I believe we were bleeding. We were not able to sell the material to cover the cost of actually picking it up and processing it. Do you know offhand how much we were losing on an annual basis when we were doing it ourselves?
Mayor, council members, Vice Mayor Clark, I don't have that number for the last year we did operate it. I'm aware that when we presented to council, we talked about the operational challenges of the material recovery facility, our limited ability to market the material, our cost, and our inefficiency with actually processing it. So there's material that residents were putting in the recycle bin that was recyclable that we weren't able to capture. And it was for all those reasons that we recommended to outsource the processing, and council gave us a consensus. At that time, we gave the conservative estimate of about $350,000 a year, including additional staff time, mileage, wear and tear on the equipment, taking the material to this new location, and we did realize that approximately $350,000 last year.
Okay, I know that it was not profitable for the city. What conservatively would it have cost the city to remediate all the equipment, bring it up to a standard that would make recycling efficient, not profitable, but efficient? Give me a ballpark of what that cost would have been.
Mayor, council members, Vice Mayor Clark, in June of 2021, we estimated, and it was based upon some other proposals that Valley Cities had received, Phoenix being one of them, that it would cost us $18 million in capital expenses.
Say again?
$18 million in capital expenses to rehabilitate and invest into our material recovery facility to make it efficient at that time.
Okay.
That is 2021 estimate, and those numbers would not be valid today.
So, knowing that our old operation was inefficient and was not profitable, we decided to continue the program at the behest of our citizens, and this apparently, in terms of the staff, was the best proposal that came forward at $1 million a year. Is that correct?
Mayor, council members, Vice Mayor Clark, you are correct.
So we could afford to recycle for 18 years. Oh, let's say the costs go up. Let's say it's 10 years or 15 years. We can afford to recycle for 10 to 15 years at the cost of what it would have taken us to remediate our operation. I don't think that's a bad deal. I think that we are satisfying the needs of our citizens by continuing to offer recycling at a cost that is far less than it would have cost us to remediate our operation. And plus, you can't count on what you're going to earn in terms of the recyclables because the market fluctuates dramatically. I think probably from month to month, although I don't know that for sure. So I think that the current contract that you're bringing before us is perhaps the most reasonable alternative to satisfy the needs of our citizens. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, you said 84% of the residents wanted to continue to pursue recycling. How many residents actually took the survey? Generally speaking, we get a pretty low turnout,
Yeah.
so.
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomashoff actually brought the survey results with me. We had 7,267 responses to the survey. That's 13% of eligible households, which is considered both statistically valid and an exceptional response rate.
Okay, thank you for that. I do have another question, and I don't know whether you'd have this answer, but, you know, bearing in mind that the cost of our recycling is not singly just the $1.25 million we're paying to Waste Management, but we've got the green trucks, we've got now the blue barrels, we've got the staffing and everything. So do you have a number off the top of your head? Because I don't know whether that was one of the questions on the survey, is what is our all-in cost of recycling annually? Like, it costs us more than $1.25 million to continue on our recycling plan. I don't know how much staff, and I'm not saying we get rid of them all, I'm just saying if we're gonna make a decision, let's talk about all of the money that we're spending on recycling so we can know what are we spending on it. We're spending more than just this, so do you know what that number is?
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Tomashoff, I don't have that number. I do know when we do our rate models, we do look at the cost to collect recycling, the cost to collect solid waste, the cost to do bulk trash. We look at those individually. I can tell you if we determine, let's say today, we're going to stop recycling, we are still obligated because Maricopa County does have an ordinance that requires us to pick up twice a week. We just have a variance that allows us to pick up trash once a week and recycle once a week, and we happen to do them on the same day. So while we might not pick up recycling, we'd still be obligated. So the number of trucks, the number of collections we do may not change.
Okay, thank you. I do want to say that I know we had talked about, there's a lot of federal grants available for MRFs. It's one of the, it's a big, I guess, federal initiative is to help cities be able to recycle. I mean, the issue with outsourcing always, in every single case, is that now you're at the mercy of somebody else. So maybe this will come back sometime. We can have another discussion about whether we'd like, I know we took a run at trying to get a grant for the blue barrels. We weren't successful there. But we might want to maybe take another look at it and see if it's something that we want to bring back in-house so we can control the cost at some point in the future. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor. As I recall, when we discussed this way back when, the decision was made by this council that we would consider, or we would continue to do recycling because of the survey and because our citizens asked for it. There was an understanding that it would cost us money to recycle versus just putting it into into a regular garbage system. I have just a question. I mean, the comment was made, and I want to make sure I understand it. From the documentation, it says that the initial contract was for $750,000 for the 5-year term, but that was a mistake. It was supposed to be a 1-year term. Is that, am I understanding that correct?
Mayor and council members, Councilmember Molnar, the staff report to council requested that we spend $750,000. That was our mistake. The contract was never capped at the $750,000, but because we asked council for the $750,000, I wanted to be transparent and come forward and say we need to correct that and ask for the $5 million over the 5 years.
So during our, if I may, Mayor, during our discussions, when we talked about the cost of recycling, was it clear to us that even though the contract was written incorrectly, or the ask was incorrect, did we understand that the cost would be about $750,000 per year?
Mayor and council members, Councilmember Molnar, that was the staff estimate, and we understand that markets can fluctuate in that, but that was our estimate. Was it would cost us approximately, we would pay them $750,000 a year, roughly, to process our material.
And we understood that as that was in your presentation?
Mayor, Councilmember Molnar, When this contract came forward, I don't believe there was a presentation with it. When we did the workshop on it, we did talk that there would be a cost, but the net savings to the city, we estimated at that time to be approximately $350,000. We are realizing that net savings today.
We are realizing that, you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify then. So we're really just correcting a mistake in the presentation of asking from 750. It was really 750 per year, but now the contract is extended and it's a total contract of 5 years for $5 million. Is that correct?
Mayor and council members, Councilmember Melnar, it's the council report we're correcting. It's the information that we gave to council that we're correcting.
The
with that
contract's
dollar.
already been done.
The contract is not changing. The only amendment to the contract is adding those 2 transfer stations.
So we already voted on the contract for $5 million?
Yes, sir.
So that's already been approved?
It was, Mayor, council members, it wasn't clear, and we want it to be clear tonight, that this is the amount we anticipate we may spend up to over the entire term of the contract.
And again, back to my question is, in that original, when we had a copy of that contract in front of us as a council, did it have the correct numbers in it, the actual contract?
Yeah, so Mayor, council members, Councilmember Melnar, the contract itself does not have a maximum amount we will spend to them. It just has a cost for processing and how we calculate that. So the $5 million was not clear in there. We want it to be clear with council as to what we could spend up to. And that's what we're asking council for tonight.
Very simple.
Okay. And based on everything that's been discussed here tonight, it's still a good option for the city of Glendale and for its people to be able to continue recycling, but there is a cost to it, and this is the cost. And there's not a whole lot we're going to do to change or lower that cost, other than if prices go up for recycling or whatever, correct?
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Melnar, you are correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is it, a lot of this is sounding confusing. So on the contract, we've used a year up. We have 4 years left, and we have the opportunity every year before it expires that year to basically make adjustments. Correct, so far? Do we have the opportunity in that contract to cancel the contract each year?
Mayor, you are correct.
Okay,
do.
so this shouldn't be a problem for anybody. Anywhere along the line, if we find a better deal or we find we're spending too much money, we have the option of not extending that for the additional years. And I just wanted to be clear because I thought that's where we were at. But so anyway, any other questions? Go ahead.
I decided to go ahead and review the agreement again one more time, now that I understand it a little better. And under item 2, it says, effective as of the First Amendment date, the delivery locations of waste management facilities identified under Section 5 of the agreement is hereby replaced by the following. And then it lists all the transfer stations, including the Santan and the Sky Harbor location. And it doesn't say that the city has the right to dictate or that we don't have to go there if we don't want to. I don't know, where is that covered in the agreement?
Mayor, Councilmember Tomashoff, you are looking at the
This
First
is the
Amendment
amendment,
to the
yeah.
agreement. I have the contract here, and it says, item 5 under service, the city shall deliver, and I'm going to skip some things, to the following waste management facility, and it lists Northwest Regional MRF located at. And then we've got the options of these other transfer stations, and it gives us hours that we can do that at. So it's in the original agreement.
Okay, Mayor, but you said that the city would be able to refuse to take our stuff to these other sites, but where does it say that? It just says the locations are hereby replaced by the following, including these 2 locations. But where does it say that we don't have to, we're not going to be redirected to one of these outlying areas? And that we have, basically that it's the city has the discretion to say, no, we're not taking it there, we're going to continue to take it to Surprise.
And that's something, we did work on with the attorney's office, and the interpretation of that is we have not guaranteed them any material. So we can at any point in time deliver our material someplace else. So there's no guarantee that any amount of material goes to any certain location in any quantity. And so we determined that's under our purview. We get to determine how much we take and to where.
Okay, Mayor, but it's not in the contract. That's what confused me, because that's why I decided to check the agreement, so. Okay, I mean, because it's gonna get way more expensive if we have to send our trucks out to Santan or places like that. I mean, that's something that I don't think we want to do, and I don't know where it says that we don't have to, so. It's just these locations are being added in as part of this amendment, if I understand it correctly, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Mayor, can I ask Mr. Bailey, are we obligated here for, I just don't understand how this agreement works.
Mayor and council, I don't have the original agreement in front of me. My recollection, though, is that the transaction is based on if we want to or we need to deliver it to another area. So it's by our choice. We have the right to do it to these different locations. So we're not bound to a specific location. Is there a possibility that they could say, well, there's no availability at a specific location? That's a possibility. But of all of these locations, we have the right, if we choose to do so, to deliver it to all of those locations. So from a practical sense, my recommendation would be always to go to the closest location. But to the extent that there's any specific language, I don't have that original agreement in front of me this evening.
Mayor? I mean, if we look at the agreement in the packet, Section 2, service, city may deliver single stream materials at city's expense to any of the following facilities, to any. And so I think that clarifies it. We may deliver it to any. It doesn't say we have to do one or the other. And then it lists all these various facilities. So to me, that's pretty clear. We may deliver to any of these.
Mr. Melner, and I'm certainly not the attorney, but you read you may, it doesn't say you shall.
Correct.
And I think that's the key word. Mr. Bailey, do you agree with that?
Mayor and council, yes, it's not a mandatory obligation that we deliver it there because, again, it's a choice of ours actually to even deliver it to any of them.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, have we any speaker cards?
No cards, Mayor.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, can I get a motion?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
I move that we approve item 6 on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Melner, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve item number 6. Any discussion? Hearing none. We need to do a roll call on this one.
I would.
Mayor, I do request a roll call vote.
Yeah, we'll do a roll call. Okay, Councilmember Oldham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Turner, how do you vote?
Explain my vote, Mayor.
Go ahead.
As I said in my previous comments, I think this is far more than what I anticipated us paying initially. This whole conversation has been just about as clear as mud. I know we have a council member who votes against all 5-year contracts, and I've never seen the wisdom of that, but in the 9 years I've been on the council, this is really the first contract that I've dealt with that I would prefer be required to come back to us on an annual basis, and the only way to guarantee that that would happen would be for it to be a 1-year contract. And I don't know that recycling really makes financial sense. I don't know what was presented to our residents in the questionnaire as far as the true cost of recycling and whether they would support it if they realized it was costing and or could cost in the range of $1 million a year. I've been on this council long enough to remember when $1 million was all the money we had to spend with any discretion, and that $1 million that we had to share among all of us that year is just as important to me as this $1 million here, and I think it deserves that kind of scrutiny. And with that, I vote no.
Mr. Melner.
Aye.
Vice Mayor?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, that motion carries. Moving on to consent, to item number 13, I believe it is. Item number 13, Ms. Moreno.
Mayor, point of order, it'd be number 12.
Yeah, I thought we were at 12, but,
Consent
okay.
resolution.
What's that?
Consent resolution.
Okay, consent resolution, item 12. Thank you for that.
Resolution number R24-01, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the entering into of an intergovernmental agreement with Maricopa County on behalf of the Sheriff's Office for shared components as it relates to the Sworn Officer Basic Training Academy on behalf of the Glendale Police Department.
We have any speaker cards?
No cards, Mayor.
Any questions from the council? Take that as a no. Is there a motion to approve item 12?
Yes, Mayor, I move we approve resolution number R24-01.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, second from Councilmember Hewitt, to approve item 12 on the consent resolutions agenda. You said we have no speaker cards on this, no discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. If you guys have it, do have it. That motion passes. Okay, moving on to bids and contracts, item 13. Ms. Moreno.
Authorization to enter into a services agreement with Cone Cranes, Inc. for service and repair to lifting equipment. There are no cards, Mayor.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 13?
Motion to approve item number 13, authorization to enter into a service agreement with Kone Cranes Incorporated.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Hewitt, to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we'll conduct a roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Mayor, I will explain my vote.
Go ahead.
As is my habit and practice, this and the following item are 5-year contracts. I do not support 5-year contracts because they provide no continuity of oversight by council. So in this case, I will be voting nay.
Thank you. Chair votes aye. The motion does carry. Moving on to item 14.
Award of request for proposal 24-12 and authorization to enter into agreements with multiple vendors for vehicle glass replacement, repair, and window tinting services. There are no cards.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 14? Anybody?
Mayor, I move that the council award RFP 2412 and authorize the city manager to enter into the described agreements.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Turner, second from the Vice Mayor, to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. That motion also carries. Moving on to ordinances. Ms. Moreno, could you introduce item 15, please?
Ordinance number O24-01, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, adopting the development impact fees identified in the infrastructure improvement plan and land use assumption dated October 24th, 2023. There are no cards.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is John Murphy, Engineering CIP Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Mayor, members of council, tonight before you is the ordinance to adopt the development impact fees. So this is one of those processes that we actually started back in late June with a city council workshop, held some stakeholder outreaches, and then held our first public hearing here September 12th, and that was for the adoption of the land use assumption and the IIP. That's what drives the impact fees. So that was adopted back on November 28th, and then we had to advertise the following day for the impact fees. Ran that advertisement, and we're here today to adopt the impact fees that were in the land use and IIP report. Once If this is adopted tonight, these fees will become effective March 25th. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion on item 15, ordinance 024-01?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Mr. Milner.
I move that we approve ordinance number 024-01.
Second.
You have a motion from Councilmember Milner, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Oldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Member Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Member Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries unanimous. New business, Ms. Moreno, would you introduce item 16, please?
Council selection of vice mayor.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Lee.
Mayor and council members. This evening, per your charter, you are to nominate a vice mayor who will serve for a one-year term at the pleasure of the city council. So this afternoon, you covered your council guidelines and making an intention to nominate. And now this evening, you will actually go through that official motion and action of nominating and approving a vice mayor.
Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a nomination from the council?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move we nominate Councilmember Ian Yu as vice mayor for the year 2024.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Clark, second from Councilmember Tomachoff to nominate Councilmember Hugh for vice mayor. Any discussion? Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll conduct a roll call vote. Councilmember Oldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
The last time I call you Vice Mayor Clark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries. Congratulations. Okay, council comments and suggestions. Next on the agenda is just that. Council makes the opportunity available to citizens to bring information and business before this council that's not included on our printed agenda. Well, actually, let's go back to the council first, then we'll do the citizens. Councilmember Oldama.
No, none, Mayor, at this time.
Councilmember Clark.
Me?
Councilmember Clark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this morning we all celebrated the 20th anniversary of what was originally the Glendale Arena, then Jobbing.com Arena, then Gila River Arena, and it's now Desert Diamond Arena. And I've been here for just about all of it. So it was a pleasure to listen to the comments of all of the speakers, and especially those of Dale Adams, and the plans for renovating the arena, and the absolutely wonderful news about how well the arena has done since the renowned Coyotes have left. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Milner.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Nada? Councilmember Tomachoff.
I'd just like to congratulate Vice Mayor Hugh. Congratulations, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Turner.
Oh, Councilmember Tomachoff, you stole my thunder. I was going to congratulate Vice Mayor Hugh on, 4 or 5 terms in that position now, and also congratulate the missus as returning to the title of Deputy Vice Mayor. That's all, Mayor.
Vice Mayor. That's you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was not used to it yet. Thank you. No, thank you for my council members' vote. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Vice Mayor Clark, for recommending me and for your service. Thank you.
And then, obviously, I want to thank Vice Mayor Clark for her work this last year, and then congratulate our new Vice Mayor. But on a personal note, I want to thank everybody that has reached out. This last week's been real trying. Lost my father-in-law right after Christmas, and so my wife and I have been dealing with that. But We got a lot of well wishes from an awful lot of people, and I want to thank everybody for that. It means an awful lot. Thank you. With that, citizens' comments. Next on the agenda is just that the council makes the opportunity available to citizens to bring information and business before the council that's not on the printed agenda. I have no speaker cards. Do we have anybody filling any out?
No, no cards.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to skip that tonight, folks. So, with that, if there being no further business before this council tonight, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If there's no objection from this council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.